Hi guys! So today it's going to be a little bit different. Normally I talk about my real estate experience as a new realtor. Today we're going to talk about Apartment 101 questions that you're going to want to ask your landlord or property management company before you sign your lease. So I have about a year and a half experience with a professional property management company, one of the largest ones in the U.S., and this gave me a lot of experience touring people who were just coming into the renting or leasing and was really unaware of how the process worked, or they just had a lot of questions. So it became apparent to me that there is a lot of unknowns out there. So I'm here today to help you get some questions answered. So you're touring the property, you like it, and you kind of want to go to the next step. So initially you're going to have to do an application, and this is going to require a background check and credit check. And if your credit comes in too low, which I think if I have to give you a number, it's going to have to be below like 600 or 550, where you're going to need a cosigner. Or you may have to pay an additional deposit equal to 1 month's rent. So just be prepared. Ask them how long the lease term is. Typically, the price fluctuates with, if you're at an apartment, the price fluctuates with 6 months to a year, and there are a ton of variables that go into this, and 9 times out of 10, they don't have control of it. It's all in this algorithm and this system where, okay, maybe if you do 6 months, and obviously they want you there for a year, so let's just use, we'll use that 10 month. So if your lease ends, in like December, when that 10 month is over, then your rent's probably going to be a lot higher as compared to, when it lets you out in like the summertime, where, they have a lot more people coming in, so they don't want to release you in a time where it could be low. So a lot of variables like that could depict the rent amount. But ask and make sure that you know what your end lease date is. It'll say it in your lease when you're signing it. By the way, the first 8 pages of the lease is, in Texas anyway, is the actual lease. Everything after that, everything else is addendums to the apartment, specific for that apartment. But if you want to jump ahead, well, just read it all. But on page 8 of the lease, there's a summary. There's a red box, and it has everything in it. Make sure you understand everything that goes into that, because it's going to have all those hidden fees too. Ask what the utilities are going to be. Sometimes water is included, sometimes it's not. For an example, you may realize that the first 4 to 6 weeks, the water bill is tacked on the back of the lease, so just expect something like that. You could have a pet fee, which is not refundable, and then you could have a deposit, which deposits are refundable if the place is returned without damage. There could be other fees. If you want additional key fobs, for an example, I had an additional one because I like to keep one on my leash with my dogs. That was $75. Trash fees, a lot of places now are having trash services like Valley Waste and other companies that pick up the trash at your door, and those have a lot of rules, so make sure you read and follow those rules, because every property, as I have recently found out, is a little bit different. So if you, sometimes they'll give you a warning if you, break one of the rules, and they can fine you. One property I was at, I know if you kept breaking the rules, they would fine you $75, I think. Maybe it was $25. But anyways, just make sure you're following the rules. They have to have rules just to keep everything in order. It may sound elementary, but ask and make sure you know what day that your rent is due, which is typically the 1st. And then ask when the grace period is, which is typically the 2nd and 3rd day of the month, but your rent is due on the 1st. 2nd and 3rd are grace days. Do not ask if you can change the day that your rent is due. I had a kid ask me that one day, and I was like, I thought he was joking. But no, you cannot change that. It's always due on the 1st. Ask, what the security deposits are. If you are renting a house, typically, if it's just, a landlord, they're going to want 1 month's rent up front. It's just more security for them, because they don't have that strong backbone as a multifamily with like 300 plus tenants do. and they can get by with like, a couple $100 deposit. So ask how much all of that is, and ask about their maintenance. That's huge, especially if it's just a residential lease. Ask if they have 24-hour maintenance, especially if you have a house or an apartment with one bathroom. What are you going to do if it stops working? Things like that. You're going to want to know. You don't want to wait to the last minute. And if you have like a little maintenance request, some apartments have apps where it's called the residential portal, and you can use that and plug in. That's only for certain properties. But anyway, just ask what you can do and what you need to do if you have a light bulb that goes out, or the toilet's not working, or there's some sort of an emergency you want to know before it happens. Ask if you have to break your lease. What do? There's a reletting fee, which could be 85% of 1 month's lease, which is a penalty, and it goes on your record, and it's like, oh, okay, like this person's breaking leases. So it just becomes like that you're a little bit untrustworthy or unstable. I don't know, but it just doesn't look that good if you break a lot of leases. Or they have the early termination fee, which can be 2 times the rent amount, and then that will not go on your record. So it is very costly, and most of the time it's just cheaper to let your lease ride all the way through, and be aware that subleasing most of the time is not allowed for apartments. So, and that's really because everybody wants to live in a property that feels safe, right? And for that to happen, people in the building have to have been background checked. And if you're just subleasing some random person and there's no background check, then anybody could be in the building, and nobody wants to be in that situation. Right when you move in, be aware that they give you an inventory and condition form. If you don't fill this out and give it back to the apartments or landlord, but apartments do this for sure, then they just keep a blank one in your file. And if there was a stain or a scratch on like the floor, the carpet, whatever, if that damage was there beforehand, but it's not like accounted for, you could potentially be responsible for that. So it may take away and deduct from your deposit that you could possibly be getting back at the end of your lease. So make sure you have that filled out. I mean, like there are some things they know that like it's just like scratches on the exterior of the door. I mean, it's just like basic wear and tear. But like things like staining on the carpet, or you'll know when you go through. I think I honestly covered a lot of things that I wanted to, so I'm going to leave it there. But those are like the first few things that I think would be good to ask. Keep in mind if you are on the first floors, like whatever, you got people above you. If you're going to be like really sensitive to noises, that's just apartment life. Currently, I'm getting to hear a toddler above me, and I'm hearing balls rolling and things of that nature. So if you do have little monkeys running around, then maybe be on the first floor, because they're kids. What are you going to do? They just play and run, and that's what kids do. And so I just know that's something I'm going to have to bear. But anyway, I hope this was helpful for you guys. If you thought of anything that I didn't cover, ask below so we can all help each other learn and grow. Take care, guys.